Photoperiodism is a really important part of agronomy and how we grow plants, and it's really important because it's just that changing length of darkness. So, you know, a lot of that stuff will happen in the change between spring and summer and fall. And it also will enact that phytochrome that will sense that change in red and very far red light. And it will have a lot of different types of responses like dormancy reactions. So if that plant will stop growing, it'll have some leaf interactions, and also then flowering. So I want you to listen pretty carefully because this flowering response can be a little bit confusing. So this is how we categorize how the flowering response will happen, if it's a day neutral, if it's a short day, or if it's a long day. So a short day crop, for some examples, are like cotton, rice, corn, and soybeans, and they will flower as the days grow shorter. So there's more darkness than they're used to. Long day crops like brome grass, flax, wheat, and mustards are just the exact opposite. They will flower when the days grow longer, and then that's pretty easy to see in those plants as well. Day neutral plants like cucumbers, tomatoes, strawberries, those are not dependent on any type of photoperiod for that flowering response to happen. I love this graphic because it shows you the short day plants, how it, like, for example, the short day plants, the long day plants, the day neutral plants. So if you look at that short day plant, you can see when the days are short, those soybeans will start to flower. When the days are long, however, the soybeans will not flower. So it's really important to make sure those planting dates are pretty close to being correct. Long day plants, there you can see that barley on days that are short are not going to flower, but barley on days that are long will flower, so it's a long day plant. And then day neutral plants, petunia flowers, they will flower either way, either a long day or a short day. So this is what I was talking about with growth and development, how they are different. They're not the same. So growth, the definition for growth is the irreversible increase in weight or size due to the increased number of cells. Okay, so that is what growth means. It does not mean when the transition from germination to seedling to vegetation to flowering. Those are two different things. That's development. So a lot of people will think, well, the growth stages are the same as development stages, but they're not. The growth is going to be measured per dry matter accumulation. The development is going to be measured with a scale that we call the Feeks, and we'll talk about that in class and in the rest of this lecture. We're going to take the weight of all of that plant and minus the water out of it. So we will dry that plant before we measure it. It will also change the development stage as well. And that it's very unique with that dry matter accumulation that will curve throughout the season as it's growing if we take different samples at different times of that stage. If we were to go take samples of these different stages, you can see the root, stem, leaf, and seed on this graph. So that's the days after planting. So from 0 to 80 or 85. And then on the left-hand side there, the dry matters per pounds per acre. So obviously, as the days start to grow after that seed is planted, that seed is obviously going to reach a lot more of those pounds per acre. So this is the measuring development that we look at when we're looking at the general developmental stages. We look at this for the Feek scale. With the Feek scale, this scale goes from 1 to 11. So from the 1, it will be like the first leaf stage, and I'll show you a picture of that in a second. And 11 is that grain ripening stage. So the last thing that plant needs to do, we look at anywhere from seed, seedling, vegetation, flowering, fruit, seed, all of that, and how that interacts with the development of that seed or that plant as well. Growing degree days are really important because that's going to help you understand the index of heat that is accumulated over that time or over the time of that growing season. So it obviously is going to be looked at upon the temperature and how that temperature is going to progress over time through that given location. And that is going to be different really everywhere you go, especially in the summertime, because one summer you might have a really, really hot summer. The next summer might be a little bit more mild. So that is just the estimate of how that crop development will progress and how and when that crop is then predicted to be mature. So when you look at this, we're looking at like 110-day corn or 99-day corn. So different varieties that will enable you to grow different degree days in that plant. This is the slide that I wanted to show you the differences between the growth and development stages. So on here we have the vegetative stages and then the reproduction stages. So the VE goes to emergence. The V1 obviously is the first leaf, V2 second leaf, go on down to V6, that's the sixth leaf. So we're looking at those different types of vegetative stages that we look at. VT is tasseling. So obviously this is a corn plant and we're going to be able to see the different types or the different tasseling stages. And then if you look at the reproduction stages, R1 is silking. R3 is that milk stage, so where it's a little bit, it's still there's still a lot of liquid in that seed. R5 is dent, and then R6 is that maturity. So field plant, if you're planting that corn as a field plant, that's where you want to reach, but you still want to have a little bit of that moisture in there to make sure that you have that weight as well. So the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the life cycles of different plants. And these four are the four main life cycles that we have. And it goes from annual to pseudoannual, biannual, and perennial. And again, you probably already know this, but it's really good to just remind yourself. I always have one or two kids that don't know the difference between an annual and a biannual. So an annual, that plant is going to complete its life cycle in one growing season, but a biannual will complete its life in two growing seasons. So we'll show you some different examples of that in class. Perennial, it's going to persist for 3 or more years, and then a pseudoannual is where a biannual and a perennial will then manage to be. We manage them as annuals. This is in your book, but I wanted you to see kind of a visual slide of what this looks like between an annual, biannual, and a perennial growth cycle. That wraps up chapter 8. Thank you so much.